Thank you very much for coming. A couple of real quick items. As Courtney said, this is the comprehensive planning process. This is not a review of the design guidelines that were adopted last year. So we will be, in many ways, touching on some of the design elements and development elements of the community, but we are not specifically addressing the design guidelines that you all put so much time and effort into over the last year and a half or two. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. My name is Graham Smith. I'm with Gould Evans. We're a local architecture and planning firm here in town, if you don't know who we are. And this is something that we do regularly with communities, and we like doing a lot because it allows us to help communities achieve their vision, define their vision and achieve their vision over time. So what we wanted to do tonight with you all is get your input on some of the issues and some of the discussions we've been having to date with our steering committee. We're still early on in the process where we're looking at those issues and analyzing those things, and so we wanted to reach out to the broader community and get some additional input and some additional feedback. What we want to do tonight, Dennis, if you'd flip to the next one real quick. So we want to talk about comprehensive planning, the issues and opportunities we've identified to date, do that survey, and then we're going to ask you to do a little prioritization exercise with us based on those issues and opportunities as we wrap up the evening here. And we're only going to keep you as long as we need to, and so hopefully we won't be here too long. So go ahead, Dennis. So again, what is a comprehensive plan? We want to talk about that and why it's important to the community, because it's, in our opinion, it's a very powerful tool that the city can use, again, to define your future and then set about achieving that future, and really becomes a powerful decision-making tool for you all as you implement the plan over time. So if we go way back to the 1920s, the Department of Commerce issued these two documents, which are the Standard City Planning Enabling Act and the Standard State Zoning Enabling Act. And that allowed, it gave the states the right to allow municipalities to do planning and zoning. Go to the next one. It also, in the state of Kansas, that means that the Kansas state statutes give the power to plan and regulate. And really a lot of the enabling legislation and also the state regulations have very, very similar wording, and it just filters down from the federal government all the way down through the state statutes, and then a lot of times communities incorporate that language into their own plans or the preface to their plans. Really a lot of the planning and zoning authority comes from early nuisance laws when people were living in adjacent to factories or adjacent to pig farms and those types of things. The way people were interacting with those uses, a lot of people felt that needed to be protected. The homes needed to be protected. So those nuisance laws came about, and then in the 20s, again, they formalized that with the enabling acts. The other thing that the enabling act did, and Kansas has carried through, is it gave the power to form a planning commission, and then it gave that planning commission within a community the power to create a comprehensive plan. And so we'll talk about that as we go forward a little bit more. So Kansas is a little bit different in their state statute than some of the other states. Kansas actually defines what they would like to see a community incorporate into their comprehensive plans. So you'll see this list up here, and it's a broad list, but they talk about location and extent relationship of uses of land. So commercial uses versus industrial versus residential, and where those things are located. Population and building intensity, so density of development in different locations within the community. Public facilities, public improvements, even sources and expenditures of revenue, and then also the protection of natural resources or use of natural resources. I've italicized the bottom one because the final one that they talk about is this idea of other elements deemed necessary. And that really opens the kind of the floodgates for communities to define what they want their comprehensive plan to include in addition to these other items. So if there's a particular topic that a community is facing, they can absolutely incorporate that into their comprehensive plan and provide the policy and guidance necessary to address that issue throughout time in implementing their vision. The other thing that comes with a comprehensive plan that the enabling legislation and the statutes dictate is that there is a level of conformance with the plan that's necessary. So this language comes straight from the Kansas state statute that no public improvement, public facility, or public utility shall be constructed without being approved by the Planning Commission and being in conformity with the plan. So the plan, as I said earlier, can be a very powerful document if the community treats it that way, especially when you're talking about public improvements such as road improvements, utility improvements, and even public open space and natural resource protection. Another authority that the enabling legislation gives a community is this authority to subdivide land. And so most people think about subdivision of land as dividing lots to build houses on. But it goes a lot deeper than that. It also gives the community the authority to lay out the road network. It gives them the authority to prescribe public improvements within the community. You'll see things on here like flood protection, building lines, stormwater impacts, and then there's that open-endedness of a lot of these things where they talk about other services. So a lot of these things, as long as they're in alignment with the public good, they're allowed under the state statutes. And then the final piece of the authority from the enabling legislation and state statutes is the power to adopt zoning regulations. And so the zoning regulations really get down to the individual use and design of property, of private property, not design, the use and layout of private property. So that's where you get into your zoning code, where you may have setbacks, you may have the area divided into the community divided into different use districts, and those types of things. So as we go from the comprehensive plan, which is really kind of a vision and policy document, all the way down to the individual property, which is more along the lines of the zoning districts and zoning code. One of the things that most communities adopt, and if you look for it in the statutes, it's in there, is that a lot of the zoning decisions that are made by a community should be in conformance with your comprehensive plan. So again, the comprehensive plan becomes a very important document as you make decisions about changing land use, changing zoning, changing development patterns, those types of things. The comprehensive plan should be prescribing the method in which you're doing that and giving you the decision-making tools to make the decisions in light of your vision. So what's this mean for Mission Hills? Well, as you all probably know better than I, Mission Hills was really built around this idea of private covenants. In 1912, about when Mission Hills was starting to be developed, the private covenants was really a groundbreaking tool that J.C. Nichols brought to bear for his development. And really in 1952, when I'll back up for a minute. In 1949, when the Mission Hills was incorporated, there was really a shift from solely looking at private development covenants to this idea of public land use controls, which include the comprehensive plan, subdivision regulations, and zoning. And so in 1952, the first zoning ordinance was adopted. And in 1982, the plan that you currently operate under was adopted by your council. And as Courtney said, that plan has gone under annual reviews and minor updates and tweaks every year if necessary. And then about every 10 years, you all undertake a major change or a major review of your document and update. And then of course, the last set of minor updates to your current plan occurred in 2013 with some language clarification and some other small tweaks. And then the last thing on the regulatory side that you all have done, the planning and regulatory side, are the design guidelines that were adopted last year that look at the redevelopment and development of private property. So your current plan, and when we talk about your current comprehensive plan, as we look through it and kind of digest it and analyze it, the one thing about your current plan is it really is a historical document. It's a very good history of how Mission Hills started and came to be its current state. And so the plan provides a few policies and a few objectives to move forward, but they don't really detail how to implement those very well. And so a lot of what you've been doing over the last several years, including your stormwater master plan and your design guidelines, has really been reactionary to some of the issues of the day that you're trying to address. What we would hope to do with the new plan is actually define that future vision with you all and then help you craft a plan that actually sets in motion the implementation items to get to that vision, and allows you to be where you want to be more proactive about creating the community that you want. That could mean change, it could mean no change. So that's our hope for the new plan as we move forward through this process. So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and start to walk through some of the things that are in the survey that are on your table. We've had a couple of meetings with our steering committee, and these are some of the discussions that we've had with them about some of the primary issues and opportunities that they see in the community. I don't want to go too far deep into our discussions right now. After we fill out the survey, we want to get some of your feedback, but I want to hit some of the highlights of some of the things we've been talking about so that you have an idea of what we've been discussing, so that you can either fill out your survey or change your survey if you've already filled it out. So these are the 5 kind of big topics that we've rolled our things up into. Can you guys see okay? Are you all right? Okay. Demographics, housing and redevelopment, technology, transportation, and public spaces. You can go ahead. With regard to demographics, you can read these bullet points up here, but really the point is the demographics of the community and the demographics of every community are changing. You hear all the time about the baby boomers, the speed at which they're retiring, they're changing the lifestyle, and they're changing places that they live. You also hear about the millennials being the largest generation now, so there's a lot of things that are going on with demographics that are changing. Mission Hills specifically, the one that I would point out is this dramatic increase in the age of 5 to 14-year-olds, especially between 1990 and 2000. There was something like a 1,700% increase in that age group just in Mission Hills. But you'll also notice that the age groups of 15 to 59 are all declining in numbers, and your overall population's declining. Housing is another issue that we've been talking about quite a bit. The thing to say here is that really there is one opportunity for housing in Mission Hills right now, and that's single family. And when you combine that with some of these other factors, and you look at the housing factors here, and then you go back and you look at the changing demographics, and you start to try and align some of those things, what does that mean for the future of Mission Hills? And I'm going to leave it there and let you guys give us some feedback on your thoughts on that. And then redevelopment. Obviously, redevelopment is one of the big topics that you all have been trying to tackle over the last couple of years, or you have tackled with your design guidelines. This map up here, I will say this was the either constructed or proposed tear down and rebuilds in the community between 2010 and 2015, and there's early 2015. And there's 35 of those on this map. It does not include additions. It doesn't include remodels of any kind. So that's what that map denotes. Some of the other things we've been talking about is floodplain development. There are homes and properties within the floodplain now. The ability to rehabilitate and expand those properties is very limited because they're in the floodplain, so that's an issue moving forward. And then this whole idea, in a conjunction with the redevelopment, the private redevelopment of the community or private property, what does it mean for the conservation of public land, conservation or preservation of public lands within the community?
All those red dots are tear downs?
Yes, all the red dots are tear downs and rebuilds. Another topic we've been talking about quite a bit is technology, and really this has to do with a couple of things. It goes back to the design guidelines and the building materials and practices that technology has given us over the last decade or so with regard to construction of new houses and other site amenities. And then the other one is the renewable energies. As we start to look more and more at solar, geothermal, and wind opportunities, people are interested in that for their environmental impacts. And so we are trying to look at it from a design aesthetic point of view and what impact those might have, those types of things might have on your community. And then transportation, I will say with regard to the automobile and traffic counts and things, there's nothing real alarming going on in the community. You have a good arterial network around your community that allows a lot of the through traffic in the area to bypass Mission Hills by and large. But the other issue that's come up loud and clear is the bicycle and pedestrian connectivity and safety for that matter of walking on sidewalks versus walking in the roads versus biking in bike lanes and biking in the roads. And so we've been talking about that more and more. And public space design, I mentioned a minute ago about the conservation or preservation of public space, but also what do our public spaces in Mission Hills want to be or need to be in the future to serve our population? Do we need to change them? Does their character need to change? Does their activity need to change, or should they remain largely passive green spaces? So that is a quick and dirty kind of 15-minute presentation about what we've very briefly what we've been talking about. We'd like you to take this opportunity now to fill out your survey based on some of the things we've done. If you've already filled it out, you can either change it or get some food or drink or whatever you want to do. So we'll give you about 10 or so minutes to fill that out.